So hi guys, I've got a big question for Roger Black today. So Roger, what is a co-sponsorship?
Co-sponsorship at eXp is, and I know a lot of people don't like this phrase, it really is a game changer. eXp over the years have made some decisions to grow the business, but I would say in the last 2 years, they've made three decisions that have changed everything, particularly here in the UK. The first one is why you joined eXp.
Teams.
Yeah, teams, allowing individual, people like you who run individual businesses to bring the whole business and your team into eXp. But then a year ago, the next thing they did was they improved revenue share.
Yeah.
Which meant that they unlocked the first three levels of revenue share. So you didn't have to accumulate, attract agents to unlock the levels. So the first three levels were unlocked from day one, which really did make a big difference for agents, new agents in particular, well, every agent. But the one that's just been made recently is co-sponsorship. And that's the one that I think around the world people are most excited about, because this in theory should accelerate the growth of eXp in a way that nothing else ever does.
So do you think Glenn Sanford, this is his like gold
Well,
ticket?
it feels like it,
Yeah.
because what he's done is, prior to co-sponsorship, if you were to join eXp, you had to join with one sponsor.
Yeah.
Now you can join with two sponsors. And the reason this is important, that a lot of people that joined eXp the way it would usually go is you chat to somebody about eXp, they go, oh, that's great. You were the first person to chat to them. And then they dig a bit deeper, and then they chat to other people, maybe two other people. And then when the time came to join, they had to name one person as their sponsor. And that we've all lost people that way.
Yeah.
And it's a bit annoying, and it was awkward for the incoming agent. Now the agent can choose two sponsors. And what it allows the agent to do is to ideally choose one sponsor, maybe a local agent who can help them locally, but then bring someone who has a different expertise to the table, or a group, in our case, the real agency group, bring a group of people as one club. We would say you as the co-sponsor, as the head of real agency group. And it just allows incoming agents to get so much more support. So when they start eXp, they're supported in a much bigger way, which allows them to hit the ground running, and it makes it so much more likely that they're going to be successful.
So it's stopping. I suppose, it's probably happened a lot of times where an agent looking to build their business in eXp would have reached out to maybe more than two agents.
Well, great example. It happened to myself and Steve Backley as ambassadors for eXp are able to be eXp agents, and we built relationships with people. One guy in particular, we were the first people to talk about eXp. He was connected to us. We were chatting about it, but then he got chatting to his someone local, and they would meet up. And when the time came to join, he felt he could get more by just being around that local agent. He felt that person could help them get set up, and it had to be very apologetic. So we kind of missed out. It's no fun.
It happened.
And this happens to everybody, but it's all about the agent. Now not now, but he could have chosen that person as his primary sponsor, and then chosen us as his co-sponsor. We could all work together to support that agent. The incoming agent would have got the best of both worlds, which is it's all about the incoming agent, which would have been fantastic.
The focus in agency is always the client, and then obviously when you're building a independent business or working as a partner agent underneath a brokerage, the focus has got to be that agent, isn't it? And if the agent's going to get something from this sponsor and something from this sponsor, which is going to help forward their career, it's a win-win.
Yeah, and it's not costing the agent anything.
No.
That's important. And I think when Glenn Sanford set up eXp, it was based around one principle: put the agent first.
Yeah.
It's all about agent. That's why they put so much of eXp profits into revenue share. Because if you look after the agents, let the agents grow, then they'll stay with you, and they'll grow your business with you. And that's what they've done.
Yeah, and that's what's happened. So people watch this video.
Yeah.
They've obviously jumped on, and they want to find out more about co-sponsorship.
Yeah.
What is the difference, Roger, between a primary sponsor and a co-sponsor?
So you can choose two sponsors. One is your primary sponsor, one is your co-sponsor. The primary sponsor is the person who you sit in their downline.
Yeah.
And all the people above the primary sponsor, as we said, would all benefit as well.
And it's just to dive in there quickly. Is the primary sponsor mainly the sponsor is responsible for getting that agent to the table?
Yeah, I would say either the person probably the person that you first got talking about, it got you interested in eXp, or probably someone locally that
Yeah.
you feel you can sort of spend more time face to face with.
Yeah.
So the primary sponsor, you get the whole upline and the downline. The co-sponsor just has the downline.
Right.
There is a subtle difference between the revenue share lines. You could argue it's actually irrelevant.
Yeah.
The primary sponsor unlocks 6 tiers,
Right.
whereas the co-sponsor unlocks 7 tiers. Very few people unlock that number of tiers. So I don't think that's a huge difference. The primary sponsor, and this is important, would keep the stock award that
Yep.
eXp give you when the incoming agent sells their first house. So I think
Yep.
those are the differences. And then the co-sponsor will get the fast track bonus,
Yep.
which so you know, between the co-sponsor and the primary sponsor, they're both getting something slightly different, but they're both winning.
Yeah.
And you know, the phrase win-win, and people use win-win all the time, but this really is a win-win.
Yeah.
It's a win-win for the primary sponsor because the primary sponsor gets the support of the co-sponsor. It's the win-win for the co-sponsor because they can work with the primary sponsor. But the big win-win here is for the incoming agent because it costs them absolutely nothing and they do get the best of both worlds.
So you might have an agent, you know, who's a co-sponsor or a primary sponsor,
Yeah.
who's regional based, but you might even have an agent who's come across eXp through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's a worldwide organisation, so you might be choosing that agent based on lead generation, digital marketing,
Oh, absolutely.
video marketing.
So there's not one way to be an estate agent,
Yeah,
right?
so-
And that's why we set up the real agency group, to have a collaboration of agents that can
Yeah.
with different skill sets. So absolutely, you can pick and choose your.
Yeah.
Actually, let's say this. Maybe it's harder to pick your primary sponsor because you probably feel this is the person who should be my primary sponsor.
Yeah.
They're the person that got me involved. But you could absolutely, the agent can pick who their co-sponsor is, and agents should think about that. You know, what are the areas that I'm not good at? What are the areas that I think I need support in that my primary sponsor can't give? And that's really why it was set up. One other really important piece, just sort of the small print here. You cannot have somebody in your downline, upline. If you bring somebody in, you can't make anyone connected to you their co-sponsor, because that's to avoid something called double dipping, which eXp, well, we're not going to pay twice. I mean, come on. So I think that's really good. So you have to look outside of your sponsors, you know, downline, upline, to choose your co-sponsor. And I think that's understandable from eXp's point of view.
So why do you think eXp have done it? Is it all about growth, collaboration?
I think it starts with putting the agent first, making it better for the agent. One of the challenges of joining eXp is the first 12 months.
Yeah.
Well, in theory, if you're better supported, you're more likely to make a success of the first 12 months by having a bigger support network than just one person.
Yeah.
So I think it's that. I guess also it just should make it more attractive as a business. It should make it easier for agents to attract agents.
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to one word, and it underpins eXp, and that's collaboration. And if you believe fundamentally on the principle of collaboration, which is why we got together. You know, I remember when we first got on the phone about this is ages ago. You said to me, I would rather build something much bigger and share it than try and build something much smaller on my own. And if you believe in that principle of collaboration, whether it's in a estate agency or whether it's in sport, you can achieve so much more working with other people than if you just do it your own. And I think they're offering that to the incoming agents. They're offering them the opportunity to work with a collaborative group or or two sponsors than just one.
And I think it's really clever, isn't it? If you think about it from a bird's eye view, looking at it being Glenn Sanford's mind and how he created this, retention, obviously in the UK we were a lot higher volumes, but in America and Canada, the average agent is not doing as many transactions. So the retention of agents and keeping them and stopping them from chopping and changing broker. If you've got two sponsors, that's probably doubled your chances of keeping that agent to succeed and keeping that agent in the brokerage. So it's very clever.
Do you know what I think of? Let's put the analogy with sport. You know, in sport, there are moments in sport where someone does something different. The Fosbury flop in the high jump. Or in my case, being part of a team that changed the running order in a relay and went on to become world champions. At the time, it was a big deal. Yeah. When you look in reflection, you go, of course. Yeah. That's just obvious. And I think this is one of those moments where we'll look back at this and go, Well, of course.
Yeah.
And as long as it works economically for Glenn Sanford and the team at eXp, and they thought long and hard about this. I love going onto YouTube and looking at people in America talking about eXp.
Yeah.
And recently I've been looking at a lot of the co-sponsorship ones. And one of the really successful people in eXp, was very complimentary of Glenn Sanford, because he said, if he'd asked me what to do, I would have just, copied what other businesses had done. But Glenn doesn't work like that. Glenn wanted to find a solution that would work for eXp and work for the agent. And so he created co-sponsorship without taking away revenue share, which is really clever. And he would have thought long and hard about it. And I think he would have had a moment to say, well, why don't we just do it this way? And people would have looked at it and gone, oh, blimey.
Joe,
So what? So basically, no one loses. Everyone wins.
One of the first long conversations I had with Adam Day about eXp, and I asked him, what's Glenn like? Because I hadn't met him at that point. And he said, he has a saying, everything's a maths problem.
Yeah.
So, like, if you think of it, it's a mathematical equation. And he just like solved it.
And you and I don't have the sort of breakouts. And I guess the number crunchers at eXp worldwide will be giving away a bit more money, but not significantly. But they're weighing that up with the growth of the country, the growth of eXp globally, and certainly here in the UK, because we're at that point in the UK with 700 agents. When I got involved in eXp, there were 220 agents, and were you? And they're at that point. We're at that point now where, we all think maybe now it's going to roll, but to bring co-sponsorship in at this point will make that far more likely to see sustainable growth than just carrying on with the old model.
So, what type of agent do you think? Because you don't have to. I know we speak about.
You don't have to have a co-sponsor.
You don't have to have a co-sponsor, and there's some time restraints, and when you have to name one, isn't there, and things like that.
Well, as of May the 1st globally, actually I think it's May the 15th in the UK. If you join from that day onwards, you have to be prepared. You have to have chosen your primary sponsor, and then you have 5 days in which to announce your co-sponsor. So if you don't do it within the 5 days, so it needs to be that conversation, and really the conversation should be with your primary sponsor. But ultimately, it's not the choice of the primary sponsor; it's your choice as an agent. But if you're an incoming agent, you might not understand that. So look outside and think, who else could I work with as a co-sponsor? You don't have to have a co-sponsor. I just cannot see an argument for not having one, because it's not costing you anything, and you get support from 2 sets of people rather than just one. So I mean, unless someone enlightens me as to why there's no that you actually don't bother with a co-sponsor, I can't see that. It makes no sense.
From the incoming agent, definitely not. No.
It's like an athlete going, you've got your coach, and we tend to have your main coach, but then you have sort of sub coaches. I had a coach who was for my strength conditioning. I had a coach who was there for my pure speed. It's rather than that one coach going, no, I'll do it all for you.
Well, you can't have a dietitian.
So you want to build the best team and look for your strengths and your weaknesses, and incoming agents sort of think, well, okay, what is it about eXp that I was attracted to eXp? But what are my worries about joining eXp? I'm worried that I'm going to be stuck on my own. So maybe I should look at maybe a co-sponsor like the Real Agency Group, where you can be part of a group, a club that gives you those events and camaraderie and connection, as long as that relationship with your primary sponsor. But also, maybe you want someone who's an expert in social media, where so I think pick and choose.
Someone who's going to help you attract, but you might see the benefit.
Absolutely. I mean, I think 85% of eXp agents in the UK aren't doing attraction or revenue share, which is understandable because they're busy selling houses and building their businesses. Well, with the right co-sponsor, that co-sponsor can really help you with that and bring that in as something that you can do. So I think you should think long and hard about it, but don't take too long, because you've got 5 days in which to do it from.
Exactly.
And I think also, and I may be wrong on this, but I think if it doesn't work out, you can do something about it. You have to get permission from eXp, but if the co-sponsorship doesn't work out, so there's a lot of small print, but actually it's such a great rule change. I
think when they first were talking about it, it was based on regions and countries and cross. The fact that they turned it on its head and rolled it out how they have done, I think it is going to be. It's got potential to huge growth. For eXp worldwide, I think.
Well, let's see. We're on this journey.
So I think, as you can tell, Roger and I are very excited about co-sponsorship. So if you'd like to find out any more, don't forget you can follow us on Instagram, you can subscribe to this channel, or you can reach us at realagencyclub.co.uk.